Así que empezamos con la entrevista a Matt Davis, codirector del Car of the Year Awards en el Auto Show de Nueva York. Well, I'm now here with Matt Davis, the co-chair for the World Car of the Year Award, who we just saw in New York, handing out the prizes for Audi, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Porsche, clean sweep for the Germans. So how are you, Matt?
I'm doing very well, Javier. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. So as we were saying in New York at the end of the awards for the World Car of the Year, the process has started already, a clean sweep for Germany. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think it was quite a surprise in some categories, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you couldn't help but notice that it was a clean sweep for Germany this year. And it's funny because after every time we give out the awards, there's sort of a debrief meeting with the steering committee at the show a few hours after. And a couple of people in the steering committee said, oh man, this is a disaster. And I and three others basically said, what's the disaster? The message that this sends is that the Germans are doing their homework, and they're doing cars that thrill us and are also practical and are also desirable, so they win awards. Big surprise.
Yeah. So for the audience who has not is not aware of the awards, let's say the Audi A3, the new sedan, won for in general the general category, right?
Yeah, it won the overall World Car of the Year for 2014. Was the A3 against the other two finalists, so the Mazda 3 and the. Help me now.
The BMW 4 Series. Yeah.
The 4 Series.
So then the BMW i3 won two categories, green and design.
Yes, it did.
And Mercedes-Benz, the S-Class for the luxury new category for the awards, and then the Porsche 911 GT3, very controversial, I guess.
Yes.
Performance.
Yeah. So I can talk to those if you like. Sure. The two controversial ones, the first one was the i3 in design, because it's hot and cold for people. I love it. For what it's meant to be, it absolutely embodies what that future vision of mobility is supposed to be. It's supposed to think out of the box and challenge you, and for what it has to do, it functions perfectly. So it's not just a fancy design piece, it's all about function. So the design experts whittled it down to those final three, and then the whole jury of 69 people worldwide voted on it. So it wasn't just a matter of one person picking it and saying, I like it. 69 jurors decided that one won, so it's legitimate. The other true controversy was the 911 GT3, as you said.
Yeah.
And that's because that 3.8-liter engine had a supplier part that was defective and resulted, I believe, in 3 recorded cases of the GT3 burning. So, not good press.
Yeah.
But we already had essentially established those final 3 for a little while. And so, I was the one who brought it up on the steering committee that I was a little uneasy with the GT3 representing us in the final 3, etc., given the fact that all the drama was happening.
Yeah.
And finally, we all discussed it, and I ended up agreeing with the idea of keeping it. Because in every test that's happened, and there have been tons of them, and comparison tests, etc., the car has been spectacular and perfect. So the fact that these problems happen is very unfortunate, but Porsche did its homework about how you do a recall, and they recalled all of them right away.
That's what I heard.
Give them a free new engine and 1 more year on the overall car warranty, which is a huge mea culpa on their part. So that counts for something too. So we left it in, and it won.
Yeah, exactly. So in that regard, and the recalls, I mean, so many things to talk about, really. And the recalls, I mean, things happen. I mean, the people have to understand that a brand puts out a car, but there's like hundreds of suppliers, right, to put it together. So something can go wrong.
Oh, it absolutely always does. And we think of the Germans as they think of themselves as somewhat perfect. And when these things happen, they have a way of responding that is pretty amazing. They'll do everything at all costs to fix the situation and make it right. I think that's easier for them to do it versus a General Motors, since that's on everybody's minds right now.
Exactly.
For the problem. Because they are smaller companies, and they invest a massive amount of money versus any other nation's companies in public image, in customer service, in how people perceive them. and the premium image. And so when a problem happens that's really serious, they handle it very seriously. So we give them points for that.
Yeah, to sum up then, again, like a clean sweep for Germany, I mean, that's part of it too, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the overall feeling, it depends on the market you're in. Leftover from the 1970s and 80s, some of the Germans, especially in North America, get a bad reputation.
Exactly.
Because they really deserved it too, because back then they were pretty bad. But nowadays, they're really kind of second to none.
Yeah.
And so if you go on a bulletin board or something like that online and you hear someone bad-mouthing Volkswagen especially, bam, 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 or BMW or Audi haters, it's probably because they still think it's that way from the 1980s or whatever, and it's absolutely not. They invested billions in all aspects of customer relations and product quality, and it really shows.
Yeah, and in general, there's, to be completely honest, at least here in the United States, there are not bad cars. I mean, like in some countries...
Actually, a Passat for North America is a better car than the Passat for the rest of the world,
Exactly.
including Germany and Europe. It's a fantastic car in North America, so it deserves the sales success that it has had for certain quarters of certain years. Yeah. It's done very well.
Yeah, exactly. So, Matthew, let's move on for 2015 because the process for electing the new World Car of the Year award has started, and it might be another German sweep with one car, the one you're driving now.
The Germans are amazing. Yeah, we're driving the BMW i8 right now, and we're the first group doing it, and we just drove through the coastal canyons, the famous coastal canyon roads in California, and so we did a lot of sport mode driving. We did a lot of city driving and sort of e-drive, which is pure electric driving. The car is remarkable because, to be honest with you, the i8, and speaking of that car in particular, they could have come out and charged way more money than they are asking, because what everyone's doing with their Halo car right now, especially the Europeans, I mean, look at the prices on these Halo cars that are coming out.
Yeah.
You know, 1 million, 1.2 million. They could have come out and probably asked, even though it has a 3-cylinder engine in the back, which some people will probably look at and go, wow, wow, and have their opinion. But trust me, the lightness of this car, the rigidity of the car, and the electric mobility of the car, it just is a little rocket, 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds. So it's a pretty remarkable piece of work and very future thinking. And it's a complete car. It's also comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. So that car...
And they're charging, $140,000 US for this car.
Yeah, compared to almost $1 million from a 1918 Porsche Spider.
Exactly. I mean, they don't really compare totally, but the idea of the car and the halo quality of the car, they actually could have charged about $250,000 and probably still sold the car.
Yeah, exactly. So that car, we first saw it a few years ago in Mission Impossible 4, and now it's a reality. And so I was talking to some people in New York, like that car could be Car of the Year, Design of the Year, Performance Car, and Green Car of the Year.
No. I mean, I highly doubt it because I frankly think, it depends on... on how we all end up feeling about some variants of the new Ford Mustang, for instance.
No, absolutely.
I mean, we keep on looking for American cars that can qualify properly and compete head-to-head in the World Car Awards. We really we don't have a bad opinion about American cars.
No, absolutely.
They don't satisfy the criteria frequently. The Corvette Stingray came very close this year. In the breakdown of votes, it came very close to the ultimate win of the GT3.
And it might have been a problem in terms of GM making that car available for other jurors in other countries, do you think, too?
Yep, that was exactly the reason. If you look at the breakdown of the votes that happened from guys and women who got their butts into the car on the jury, those who got in the car frequently voted it number 1 out of their top 5.
Very
so unfortunately, not enough of us were able around in obscure parts of the world to get into a Corvette Stingray, and that's part of what the American manufacturers absolutely have to work on, is getting jurors into those cars sort of as an investment in their brand and see it that way and as being worth it. Because if you got in the Corvette, you probably would have voted it number 1.
Exactly. So we're talking to Matthew Davis, co-chair of the World Car of the Year Award, your panel. And Matthew, I mean, it's a fascinating story. We can be talking for hours. I don't want to take too much of your time, but can you tell our audience where can they find where you publish your stories? I know you live in Italy and publish around the world, basically, right?
Yeah, I still, for reasons unknown to me, I'm the only American journalist over there living and working in Europe at this level, and it still blows my mind because it's so much fun and there's so much work, so it's great. But you can see my stuff on in the United States. You can go to Yahoo Autos, or you can go to autoblog.com, and my stuff is all over those places. Plus others, of course, but those are my two main outlets in the United States.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Matthew. And maybe I'm going to send an application to be your assistant there in Europe. Maybe you can consider it.
Give it a shot.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, buddy.
Bye, chao.
Bye.
Ya regresamos. Yo soy Javier Mota. Esto es Auto 060 aquí en Cristina Radio Network.
Este programa fue una producción de National Latino Broadcasting.